This was one of the good mornings to be at the St. Louis Zoo's Fragile Forest because the chimps were out and they were busy, and the visitors had plenty to watch. But there are days when the chimps choose not to come out, or not come out very far, or not stay very long. Since the Fragile Forest opened last year, it's been getting mixed reviews from the public and from the chimps. The visitors, of course, will tell you what they don't like. But understanding the chimps' opinions is a lot more complicated. After a year, I guess this is as much a learning experience for you guys as it is for them here.
Absolutely.
Terry Honeycutt is the keeper in charge of the chimps, and she admits it's been frustrating. One day, they look like they're adapting well to the surroundings, and the next, they're no-shows. Because we think of them as being really adventurous.
Right.
You know, we see them climbing, we see them active. So you'd think you'd open up this yard and they'd all run out and start
well,
playing.
Well, that's what we hoped, yes, of course. And some of them did,
right.
But of course some of them didn't. And then that's the hard thing, I think, for people to understand, that some of them are afraid the group's going to stick together.
When the orangutan section of the Fragile Forest opened next door, the female Mira, who had been outside at another zoo, moved right in with her baby Ruby. But there's just a few orangs, and they tend to be more individualistic. This year, Ruby turned 2 and was happily swinging about. She has a couple of things going for her that a lot of the chimps don't. She is growing up familiar with the outside environment, and she is being raised by her mother. A lot of the chimps were hand-raised by humans.
And I think that would be the biggest thing, how insecure hand-raised animals can be in any situation, how much more confident having their own mother makes them.
Oh, there's a bunch of them!
The chimps have their different personalities, but they also function as a group, and there are so many factors at work here. There is just no way to know for sure how they're going to react to new surroundings. And zookeepers knew that right from the very start. We first toured the Fragile Forest as it was under construction in the fall of 2003, a $7 million project designed first and foremost to be escape-proof, with walls that couldn't be climbed, crawled through, or jumped over.
Again, to harp on the intelligence and again and again. They'll do things like climb on one another, or if we have a tree, say, overhanging in the yard that a large branch falls in, it's not beyond a chimp to figure out to prop it on the wall.
But within the secure walls, this was to be a place with plenty of enrichment features that would keep the chimps active, interested, and challenged, as they would be in the wild.
Right, exactly. Right.
Exhibit builders sculpted logs with straws leading to a tasty drink, and holes the chimps could probe for hidden food. They even built this game, in which the chimps would have to use sticks to carefully move balls out of the way to get to a tasty nut.
Oh, so are they that patient?
Oh, yes. Yes, they are that patient.
The zoo staff came up with another idea. They could drop treats down long tubes in the walls leading to openings, and they'd be covered by lids with small holes. The chimps would have to use their fingers or sticks to extricate the food, and it would give them another challenge. That's at least what the humans were thinking. The problem is, you can't really do a focus group with a bunch of chimps.
In some cases, what we swear is going to work doesn't at all. You know, and we've kind of, come up with a motto with primates, never predict, because they're such intelligent animals that, even if you've worked with them for many, many years, as I have, you're continuously surprised by what they're capable of.
We were back at the Fragile Forest in 2005, just a few days after the metal door had been opened for the very first time to allow the chimps to the outside world.
Holly's got a little crooked smile. It's actually a little bit of a fear grimace. She's a little nervous. This is the first time I've seen her come out this far.
Understandably, they were a bit timid. These chimps were not raised in the wild. Most of them had always lived with a roof overhead. They were sort of like a bunch of city kids out on their first camping trip.
She's showing see, it shows just the slightest little noise or a bug coming by is enough to, kind of shake that confidence a little bit.
The chimps could not get back into their indoor exhibit space until the fall, but they could go to the passageway that leads to the holding area where they spend most nights, and too often they were just hanging back inside that tunnel, whether it was because the dominant male Hugo was holding them back or because they liked the shade or the feel of the concrete or the security, whatever. Visitors would look and look, though, and they just couldn't see them. The inaugural season of the Fragile Forest wasn't exactly a failure, but it certainly wasn't a huge success. Still, there was hope that this was growing on them and that they might really appreciate it after they had to go back inside during the cold months. It was possible that this spring they'd hear the sound of that metal door opening to the outside, and they'd be like a bunch of school kids hearing the bell signaling the start of summer vacation.
I had so hoped they would say, oh great, the winter's over, we can go back outside, we've been out there, we got used to it, we can deal, it's better than in here. They sort of like,
Yeah.
Okay. They went out. And then a couple of days later, that was the big hurrah.
One thing that's different in this second year is that the Fragile Forest is looking a bit less natural. Zookeepers thought the chimps didn't like the waterfall, so they're shutting it off now before the chimps come out. They paved a pathway because it seemed that some of the chimps did not like the feel of the bare earth. They've strung uncamouflaged fire hoses between the trees and woven them into ladders and hammocks because the chimps like them. And on this particular morning, the keepers were stringing feeders made out of old plastic bottles to draw the chimps out into the exhibit.
We said, okay, we'll worry about aesthetics later. We were originally saying that we would not put any unnatural-looking enrichment items in the yard because, as you can see, they're not really pretty. However, we found this is what they want, and these are the things they like. These are the things they have inside.
So you're compromising.
So we're compromising to make them comfortable, sure.
The chimps are coming out more. Things are getting better at the Fragile Forest, but just as the keepers think they've moved 2 steps forward, the chimps take 1 step back. And every week the keepers get together to compare notes to try to decide what they should do.
We haven't necessarily figured out what the entire common denominator is. At this time it's wonderful, and at this time it's not. I mean, we've made some guesses, obviously.
They have tried closing that door and not letting the chimps back into the tunnel, but there is the chance that the next day the chimps will simply refuse to come out at all in a show of chimp solidarity. The group dynamics are fascinating. There are 9 individuals, males and females, young and old. They have a complex system of rivalries and coalitions that are sometimes compared to human office politics. When the Fragile Forest first opened, a lot depended on how the alpha male Hugo would react and whether there might be a power struggle with Jimmy. But now, it's not the males who seem to be holding things up.
The boys, I think, are okay with everything. But Hugo feels a responsibility to the females. And in fact, it's been really interesting this year what he's done. I see him trying to herd them out, and he tries to keep them together. But the common thing that will happen is Bakari wants to hold back, thereby making it impossible to get all of them out. He may have gone out with all the others, but then he realizes Bakari is not with him, and he goes back up, and he'll just sit with her.
And if the group doesn't start to change, then maybe the zookeepers will change the group. They are considering bringing in a new female from another zoo.
I think it would be good for the group. And this particular female, she's older, she has been outside, she's a little on the bossy side, which might be what we need, although of course it'll cause some sort of brief chaos, but that's still on the plate.
A couple of days later, the chimps were coming out to enjoy another kind of treat, a big popsicle topped with nuts. The keepers had cut back the tall grass that morning, another natural feature which they thought some of the chimps didn't like. They had put in a new fire hose ladder and another hammock, which the youngster Tammy was playing on, and which also provides some additional shade below. There is plenty for visitors to see at the Fragile Forest, but still too much of the show is taking place backstage in the tunnel.
Now there's some fighting. What's all that about? Somebody took someone's treat or piece of fruit. They may come running out here in a moment.
If and when they finally settle in here, maybe next year, they just might begin to discover the things they have pretty much ignored. Those feeding holes, the logs with the hidden treats, and that nut game. On the plus side, the keepers say the chimps don't seem to be unhappy about all of this. Not angry, not bored, not destructive, and not looking for a way out.
Now I'm the king of the swingers, oh, the jungle VIP. I've reached the top and had to stop, and that's what's bothering me.